استهداف
ابوي وين؟
استهداف لنقطة مياه. الله أكبر الله أكبر.
في تمام الساعة 9 صباحا تفاجأنا بقدوم العديد من الحالات إثر استهداف صاروخ وإثر استهداف صاروخ.
هسه عم بطيح هذا أنا ماسك بارودة بقتل فيهم هذا. كنت استنى بالهدنة تيجي اقسم بالله عشان اشتري له عشان كنت بدي معك يابا. يا ريت بطلت معك يابا. الله يرحمك.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر.
They waited in a queue at a water distribution point in central Gaza. All they wanted was to fetch water and quench their thirst. But fate had other plans. An Israeli strike that the IDF says malfunctioned hit the water distribution area in Nuseirat refugee camp. The Israeli military stated that the strike landed dozens of meters away from its target. At least 10 people, including 8 children, were killed while they were gathering water. Israel Defense Forces later said in its statement that it regrets any harm to uninvolved civilians. They were among 43 Gazans killed in Israeli attacks on the 13th of July. In recent weeks, the water shortage in Gaza has worsened sharply. It has made people more dependent on collection centers to fill up their containers, and that's exactly where people lost their lives. In July, a United Nations humanitarian agency said in a report that Gaza's lack of clean water after 21 months of war and 4 months of Israeli blockade is creating devastating impacts on public health. Living in a tent camp by the ruins of a smashed concrete building in Gaza City, the Al-Manasra family hardly gets enough water for drinking and washing. The children are suffering from diarrhea and skin diseases because of the lack of clean water.
There's no water. Our children have been infected with scabies. There are no hospitals to go to and no medications. We demand water to clean ourselves, clean our children, and provide them with water to drink. The drinking water is hardly accessible. Once a week we got access to drinkable water. We don't get to have drinking water because there's a lot of people, and like I'm thirsty, others are thirsty as well.
A day after the deadly strike, on the 14th of July, Akram Manasra had gone to fill up containers, along with 3 of his daughters. Each of them carried 2 heavy plastic containers in Gaza's blazing summer heat, but they could only manage to fill up 2 for the family of 10.
When we were in the Shujaya neighborhood, we used to shower our children on a daily basis. Now we shower them once every 2 weeks. We can't shower them every day because there's no water. Dishwashing, sometimes for 3 or 4 days. There is no water for dishwashing, no water to wash your hands. When we wake up in the morning and try to wash our faces from the water I filled, we can't find water.
For many, like the Manasra family in Gaza, the daily toil of finding water is exhausting and often futile. According to the United Nations, 2/3 of people in Gaza drink water that has been contaminated. The incidence of diarrhea in children under 3 years old has doubled. All children in the Gaza Strip are at risk of waterborne diseases. On the 15th of July, Palestinians gathered at the site of an overnight strike on a house at the Al-Shati Beach refugee camp in Gaza City. Gazans used simple tools to retrieve missing people from under the rubble. At Al-Shifa Hospital, mourners were bidding farewell to relatives and loved ones who were killed in recent strikes. Israel says it is seeking to eliminate Hamas from Gaza, which attacked southern Israel in 2023, and free hostages still held by the group. Gaza's health ministry says more than 58,000 people have been killed since the start of the war on the 7th of October 2023.
They say they are fighting the fighters. They are actually fighting the houses, stones, trees, humans, and the civilian person who has nothing to do with the conflict and is just living in Gaza, being Palestinian and having a Palestinian ID because this is his country, home, land, and place. They are just killing us.
According to the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, Israel's blockade of fuel, along with the difficulty in accessing wells and desalination plants controlled by the Israeli military, is severely constraining water, sanitation, and hygiene services. On the 11th of July 2025, the UN Human Rights Office said nearly 800 people have been killed while seeking food at distribution points operated by the US and Israeli-backed Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, or GHF, since the end of May. Israel backed the GHF after claiming that Hamas diverted aid from the UN-led aid system, a claim the UN denied. Reportedly, the GHF uses private US security and logistics companies to get supplies into Gaza, largely bypassing a UN-led system. The private company employs American mercenaries to oversee 4 food distribution zones, as opposed to 400 non-militarized zones run under the UN system. The United Nations has called the plan inherently unsafe and a violation of humanitarian impartiality rules. In Gaza, the GHF has become infamous for the near-daily shootings of people seeking food, who queue to receive meals since the group started operating in early May. Palestinians seeking food navigate a set of instructions and stick to specific routes. Sometimes they even walk long distances to access the food sites. Even then, there is no guarantee they are safe.
Up until the 7th of July, we've recorded now 798 killings, including 615 in the vicinity of the GHF sites and 183 presumably on the routes of aid convoys. This is nearly 800 people who have been killed while trying to access aid. We have seen that of the overall death toll in Gaza, a large proportion are women and children. And again, that raises serious questions about whether these principles are being respected. We've raised concerns about atrocity crimes having been committed and the risk of further atrocity crimes being committed.
Much of the focus in the past few weeks has been on the deadly incidents connected to the new aid mechanism run by the GHF. But what is becoming clearer by the day is that the entire aid distribution system in Gaza appears to be closer to a complete breakdown. UN agencies and other aid groups have refused to cooperate with the GHF, saying its system disregards the humanitarian principles of neutrality, impartiality, and independence. After an almost 3-month total Israeli blockade, which partially eased on the 19th of May 2025, the UN warned that Gaza's 2.1 million population faces catastrophic levels of hunger. The report by the Integrated Food Security Phase Classification, or IPC, said there had been a major deterioration since October 2024, but concluded that famine was not happening at the moment. Some 244,000 people were currently experiencing the most severe or catastrophic levels of food insecurity, it said, and called for urgent action to prevent the risk of famine. Like thousands of other Palestinians in Gaza, Hind al-Nawaja takes a dangerous miles-long journey every day to try to get some food for her family. Accompanied by her sister, the mother of 4 had to duck down and hide behind a pile of rubble as gunshots echoed nearby.
We are going out, we either die, or we don't get wounded, or we live. We are now going out to bring aid. God knows, we might die. You either come back carrying food for your children and they will be happy, or you come back in a shroud, or you go back upset without food and your children will cry. This is life. We are being slaughtered. We can't do it anymore.
Not just Hind al-Nawaja, Fatme Jundia also worries about basic supplies. She cradles her 2.5-month-old twins and wonders how she will feed them the following day. Jundia says she cannot produce enough breast milk to nourish both babies and relies on formula, which has become very difficult to find.
I gave birth to these twins in the war. As you know, giving birth is hard, and I delivered them through a cesarean operation, not naturally. I suffered a lot in delivering them, and now we suffer from lack of milk and diapers. It is hard when the milk is out of stock and we do not find milk.
Fatma Jundia's story is one of many across Gaza. Fatma Arfa, who is 6 months pregnant, fears for the life of her unborn child. Her concerns are driven not only by the conflict but also by her struggle with anemia, which has resulted from a lack of food. Forced to flee her home in northern Gaza, Arfa now lives in a makeshift tent with her husband and 5 children.
The lack of food that my children and I are exposed to, or rather that I am exposed to, threatens my life and threatens the fetus in my womb as well. I will not be able to do my housework. I cannot. To support the children, I cannot support them. This threatens our society and threatens me as well. It threatens my health as well.
As for the cases now, frankly, they have increased a lot. They are cases of malnutrition, anemia, or weak blood, of course, for many reasons, which are the decline in nutrition, whether lack of meat, dairy, cheese, fruits, or vegetables. I mean, even at this stage, there is a shortage of flour or bread, meaning the basic necessities required for a human being.
The World Health Organization declared in April 2025 that between 10 to 20% of 4,500 surveyed pregnant and breastfeeding women are malnourished. Malnourished pregnant women face issues including anemia, fatigue, and preterm labor. According to another report published on the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs website in June 2025, an estimated 55,000 pregnant women in Gaza are facing increasing health risks such as miscarriage, stillbirth, and undernourished newborns. In Gaza, clean water has become a rare and precious resource. As the conflict drags on, its people are battling not only bombs, but thirst and diseases. According to a 2024 report by Action Aid, not a single one of Gaza's 2.3 million residents has access to enough safe water to meet their daily needs. What used to be a necessity is now a privilege, and the most basic dignity, the right to use a clean toilet, is also gone. An assessment by humanitarian agencies done in 2024 revealed a staggering reality. In Rafah, one toilet is shared by an average of 891 people. Toilets are broken, overflowing, and unsanitary. 67% of the toilets assessed were either not functioning or in a poor state. For displaced families, even finding a usable toilet means waiting in long lines with no guarantee of privacy or safety. Even hand washing, a simple defense against disease, is nearly impossible. In over 75 camps and shelters across Rafah, 3 out of 4 sites had no showers at all. Water scarcity has made the sanitation crisis worse. With only 1 of 3 Israeli pipelines functioning and much of Gaza's infrastructure destroyed, water availability dropped to just 10 to 20% pre-war levels in 2024. Now let's take you through Gaza's 5 governorates, highlighting key locations and vital infrastructure. At the beginning of the Israel-Hamas war, Gaza had a population of about 2.3 million people. It is divided into 5 regions: North Gaza, Gaza City, Deir el-Balah, Khan Yunis, and Rafah, bordered by Israel and Egypt on the Mediterranean coast. The strip is about 365 square kilometers. North Gaza. The district of North Gaza shares a 10-kilometer-long border with Israel. The Gaza Strip is surrounded by a heavily fortified border consisting of a concrete wall and doubled wired fencing. The Israeli army patrols Gaza's northern and eastern borders. The Beit Hanun crossing, known as Erez to Israelis and managed by the Israeli army, is Gaza's only northern crossing into Israel. From there, Palestinians with special permits, usually for urgent medical treatment, are allowed to leave Gaza on their way to Jerusalem or the West Bank. Since 2007, Israel has imposed a sea and air blockade of Gaza. North Gaza is home to the largest refugee camp in the Strip. The Jabalia refugee camp covers an area of 1.4 square kilometers, and with a population of 114,000, it is one of the most densely populated places on Earth. Gaza is the largest and most populous city within the Gaza Strip, with more than 700,000 residents. Rimal, Shujaya, and Tel Al-Hawa are among its most well-known neighborhoods. And at the heart of the Rimal neighborhood is Al-Shifa Hospital, the largest medical facility in the Gaza Strip. The Shati refugee camp, also known as Beach Camp, is located along Gaza's Mediterranean coastline and is the 3rd largest out of the Gaza Strip's 8 camps. Deir el-Balah, named after the monastery of the date palm, Deir el-Balah is one of Gaza's largest agricultural producers. It is also home to 4 refugee camps: Nuseirat, al-Burej, al-Maghazi, and Deir al-Balah. Gaza's only operating power plant is located along the district's boundary with Gaza City. Khan Yunis. The district of Khan Yunis is home to some 400,000 people. At its center is the Khan Yunis refugee camp, home to about 87,000 people. Rafah is the southernmost district of Gaza, with a population of more than 250,000. The Rafah border crossing is the only crossing point between Egypt and the Gaza Strip. Both Israel and Egypt have kept their borders largely shut. In 2020, the Rafah crossing and the Erez crossing into Israel were open for only 125 days, according to the UN. Israel has depicted its tightening grip as a temporary necessity to pressure Hamas into releasing the remaining hostages taken during the October 7, 2023 attack that started the war. Israel has dramatically expanded its footprint in the Gaza Strip since the war. But experts say that the land Israel holds, which includes a corridor that divides the territories north from south, could be used for exerting long-term control. As of now, Israel controls more than 50% of the territory of the Gaza Strip. Israel now says it has a plan for all Palestinians. Earlier this month, Israel's defense minister laid out plans to force all Palestinians in Gaza into a camp. Israel Katz said he has ordered Israel's military to prepare for establishing a camp, which he called a humanitarian city on the ruins of the city of Rafah. Israeli forces would control the perimeter of the site and initially move 600,000 Palestinians into the area, mostly people currently displaced in the Al-Mawazi area. Eventually, the entire population of Gaza would be housed there, as per the plan. But former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert warned against the plan and said that a planned humanitarian city inside Gaza, which is intended to hold hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, would be a concentration camp. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's administration has defended the project, saying it would offer civilians a safe haven while further weakening Hamas militants' grip on Gaza. However, on the 15th of July, displaced Palestinians from Rafah rejected the Israeli scheme to move hundreds of thousands to a humanitarian city in Gaza. The already uprooted Palestinians expressed that they would instead like to return to Rafah and rebuild their own homes.
The tent city that Netanyahu claims to have created, imprisoning people in a large detention camp, controlling their air, controlling their water, controlling their food, controlling their youth, controlling their women and their elderly. We want the city of Rafah to be returned whole. Rafah is the well-defined Egyptian-Palestinian border, with no Israeli presence on its borders.
Of course, everyone in their own country, their land is precious to them, their home is precious to them, their children are precious to them, and every corner of the house and every stone of the house, you built them, and you know the story of every stone and what its tale is. So dreams are for us to return to Rafah, to build Rafah, and to restore it as it was, God willing. This is the least of dreams, to return to Rafah and rebuild it, and the entire Gaza Strip, God willing, will be rebuilt.
We have seen these reports about establishing a so-called humanitarian city in Rafah. And there are also calls for voluntary movement of Palestinians in Gaza to third countries. In all, these calls raise concerns of forcible transfer. First of all, the setting up of such a humanitarian city in itself is problematic, and it raises concerns about further forced displacement, of course, without proper humanitarian assistance. And it is likely that men and women of certain age groups could be at higher risk of arbitrary detention.
Since US President Donald Trump suggested at the start of the year that large numbers of Palestinians should leave Gaza to clean out the Strip, Israeli politicians, including the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, have promoted forced deportation, often presenting it as a US project. For several months, Trump has suggested turning Gaza into a resort area like the Middle Eastern Riviera. He said US officials could lead efforts to rebuild the area. However, no official plan has been shared yet. Now, amid the humanitarian city talks, Trump called the Gaza Strip one of the worst real estate deals ever made. He criticized how Gaza was formed, saying Israel gave up valuable oceanfront property. The Gaza Strip is currently suffering from a terrible conflict. 58,000 Palestinians have been killed, according to health officials in Gaza. Nearly all of Gaza's 2 million residents have been displaced. Since the 6th of July, Israeli and Hamas negotiators have been taking part in the ceasefire talks in Doha. Discussions are on about a US-backed proposal for a 60-day ceasefire. The plan includes a gradual release of remaining hostages, Israeli troops pulling back from parts of Gaza, and peace talks to end the fighting. US, Qatari, and Egyptian mediators have been working to secure an agreement. However, initial optimism that a deal might be at hand has faded in recent days. As you can see, there are many plans to reinvent Gaza. However, what we are witnessing in Gaza is not just a tragic consequence of war. It has gone beyond Israel's physical onslaught on Gaza. Food, water, and the basic means to live, the very core of human survival, is now being targeted.